Welcome back, baseball fans, to this eliminating the Colorado Rockies video here. The Colorado Rockies, um, what you might guess how you'd put together a team that we, of course, know didn't exist until the 1990s, and then go back into the 1970s and try and simulate what that might look like. There's a lot of sluggers in this team, and they try and get on base and hit a home run, and that's about it. And 2 years ago, worked perfectly. They won a division and made the wild card and played tough. And then the last 2 years, two pretty lackluster years, back to back. A 237 team batting average, a 425 team ERA. They do have homers, but not an exorbitant amount of homers. They're in the top five, I would guess. But the column to the right, on base, they have a 302 team on base. That just don't scare you enough. Putting enough guys on per inning for that threatening big home run that'll just, beat you consistently. Yet with all that said and done, they still are 19 and 20, which is respectable, but just not good enough to make a playoff push. The net runs, 182 scored, 196 given up. So they probably overachieved a tiny little bit there. We had Brant Alea, his final performance, and it's another great one. I have consecutive 3 years of data, or maybe even 4 years of data for Brant Alea, and every time he plays well in these short sample sizes. So there you go. I don't know a career what happened to him as to why he never played a full season. Maybe he just didn't catch a break, got hurt. Who knows what? And again, the Minnesota Twins were a loaded team. They probably didn't have room for him anyway. You also have Rick Monday is an everyday guy for the Rockies throughout this. He had a nice year, 268 with 8 steals and some homers. Disappointing guy is Don Money, 205 with a homer. That's terrible. 268 on base. All these on bases aren't very good. List is good, Lahoud, but you see that guys with on bases below 300 on this team. And then we get to the pitching. Jim Schillenbach's had a couple good innings years in a row. 0.82 ERA, you see there. Mel Queen, 11 saves. Starting pitching, though, was not very good. Drago, Reed, Morton, and Peters. None of them really stood out. Cumberland, yeah. So it's time to take a peek at the Colorado Rockies stack here. We're going to pull out their 1980 guys and see who is going to be coming back and who is going to be vacating the premises. Okay, so these are our 8 guys here who are leaving. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 6 hitters and 2 pitchers, which means we're going to have 6 and 6 hitters and pitchers left. There's some nice names in here. And then we'll go do a better review a little bit later in this video. Let's see the 6 hitters and 6 pitchers that are going to be they are building upon for next year. Okay. So they made Costco a priority pick in the draft because, well, look at that. He's your perfect Colorado Rocky, right? Wish he had some more walks over here, though. That would be nice. But yeah, that's what they look for, the home runs. And of course, Kingman is your perfect Colorado Rocky. This would be a very nice card for him in 71. Only has 115 at bats. But yeah, that's, most of this decade he's hitting like 213. So this year it's 278. So that's a nice card for him. Then there's Joe Liss, and you're starting to see the same guy over and over and over again. You have a corner outfield, first base type, DH type with a lot of power, some walks, no defense. And that's the first 3 guys. And then after that, you got Auerbach as a shortstop who has a nice card in 1974 coming up. They might bump that up. Gagliano, that's a nice card right there. 324 card of 71. And there's Joe Lahoud having one of his better years in 72. How about the pitching? Well, the relief pitching was better than the starting pitching, and the good news is they bring it all back. So, Drago was at the top of the rotation. He didn't pitch very well, but he pitched good in the tournament until our final game. He won a tournament game, beat Pittsburgh in one of those games. He's a starter 8. He's got a nice card. That's a 2.99 ERA in a full season with Kansas City. Who wish they had him back, I guess. Ron Reed, who has been their closer in the later 70s, early 80s, because he was a relief pitcher for the White Sox and the Phillies. But he's a starter back here. So you have 2 guys who can pitch on 3 days rest. And the bullpen actually boasts some guys who could start. Cumberland, look at this. He's a starter 7, relief 4. So you can move him into the rotation now, as Fitzmaurice as well. And Schellenbach and Mel Queen. So think about that for Colorado. If you don't find any starting pitching you like, then just add these 2 guys. Because you'd have 2 guys who can pitch on 3 days rest, and then Cumberland's the number 3 starter as a left-hander, and Fitzmaurice. That could be your rotation next year. And then all you got to do is find, well, a left-hander reliever and a right-hander reliever. That could be easier to find than starting versions of those. So it's a pretty interesting. I'm waiting for the Rockies to return to what they did 2 years ago when they, of all the expansion teams, this is the one expansion team that if they get it all right and they have all the right jacked up, sluggers on the field at the same time. This is the team that I think could break through as an expansion team and beat the traditional Major League Baseball teams. Let's see what the Rockies will do with their 8 players of 1970. Okay, baseball fans, we are going to take a look at these 1970 players of the Colorado Rockies. Before we do that, though, we may as well take a little brief tribute here to Vin Scully, since this just occurred. The legendary voice of the Dodgers from 1950 to 2016, which is just astonishing. It is truly remarkable doing anything from 1950 to 2016, yet being a Major League Baseball broadcaster and the greatest one that's ever lived. 25 World Series, 12 Major League Baseball All-Star games, and every award you can imagine. Wonderful, wonderful voice and a wonderful person. We will miss Vin Scully. Let's get to now the Rockies. The first player is Brant Alea, and we've talked a ton about this guy. So let's go investigate Mr. Brant. This is the guy, 6'3", big dude, right? Left fielder and pinch hitter. And there we go. So 69 and 70. So 70, he actually wasn't with the Twins in 69. He was with them in 70. Now remember, the Twins won the West in the first 2 years it existed, in 69 and 70, before Oakland moved in. And so he had half a season with the Twins in 70. Let's take a look at that team and see. I'm sure they were filled up in the outfield. Both Allison, we got Tovar, Oliva, there's Alea. And then you probably had Jim Holt. You're trying to get him in the infield and the outfield. Carew, Bob Allison was still around. He was an outfielder. And just not enough mouths to feed. So just too many great players in the 70 Twins team. They were actually pretty good. They won 98 games. But just they get forgotten because of the Orioles. But my goodness, you have, look at this, Oliva and Killebrew and Perry and Hall and Tovar and Cardenas. Stan Williams, great relief pitchers, catcher, young Blylev and Carew. Look at Carew, how far down on the WAR list he is in 70. Tion! And Peranowski, my goodness. Wow. So that might explain a little bit why Brant Alea only has 94 games played. Going back to his card, and again, we had that 69 card was good as well. It doesn't look good in the future for him. 71 is a really bad year. And then 72, it's a really bad year. And that's it. So, wow. The unfortunate news, well, it's kind of a good and bad story. You never know what kind of split a player can get with a 180 batting average. If it's an opportunistic split, he might be workable. Only problem is he only has 2 homers anyway. I doubt that would be an opportunistic split. He does have 158 plate appearances, means he qualifies for waivers. So you could waive Brandt instead of retiring him, which is just a mere formality, as nobody will claim him off waivers. Next player is Jim Driscoll. Now, Jim Driscoll also was one of those players. Yeah, there he is. Got into the league because he batted left-handed and he had power and he could play shortstop. And he did it for Oakland in just a small sample size there in 70 with 56 plate appearances. That's the card they made. That's the only performance he's done. And they certainly don't have this performance in 72 where he went 0 for 18. Well, thanks, Jim Driscoll. It was fun. We had a nice little experiment with your card in 1 year, the carryover league, and that's nice. Not much more to say. Don't know much about him. There you go. Next player, Jack Hyatt. A friend of mine sold him a card the other day. Jack Hyatt was a longtime Giant. There's Jack. Let's see here. Lots of walks for a catcher. Always good. We'll stick around baseball because he's this uncanny knack of getting on base. Look at this on base percentages from 66 onwards there. Look at this, is stunning. 407, 387, 350, 350. Everything's over 350, which is amazing for a backup catcher. Look at this one, 401 with the Astros. So Hyatt is a star. This is the type of player you want to have as your backup catcher. And so in 71, this card is out there, and it's a good one. And 72, the 72 card may or may not be out there. It doesn't matter. That 71 card's a nice card. 276 with a 401 on base. That's getting into the league. So we're going to keep old Jack Hyatt for another year. So you have a keeper, a waiver, and a retire this far. Next guy's Don Money. We know we're keeping him. He does have a lean spell at a certain point in this decade before he starts tearing it up for Milwaukee. Let's see if we can avoid that lean spell. So 70, he gets 295. Couple more trying years, but then in 73 and 74 he's back up to 280 again with some power. Leads Major League Baseball with an all-star appearance in 74 in plate appearances and at-bats. 29 MVP votes. No brainer, of course. The Rockies aren't giving him back to Milwaukee. He is. They love him in Colorado, and he's going to stay with them the entire time. One of the things I enjoy about my carryover league is giving fictional franchises some identity. This is how I know who the Colorado Rockies are. Oh yeah, that's the team that has Don Money and Rick Monday on it and Ron Reed on it all the time. And how did those guys get on this team? Mostly because they bounced around baseball. In the case of Rick Monday, it would be the A's, the Cubs, the Dodgers. And speak of the devil, Rick Monday is the next item up for bid is Rick Monday. And I think we have a Cub hat here and a Dodger hat here. I believe he was the first overall pick in the draft, was he not? Yes, he was. The first overall pick in the 1965 draft by the KCAs. Rick Monday. So they love him in Colorado. They're not getting rid of him. By the way, in my fall league that I play, in a different timeline, this fall, I'll resume it, we got the 81 Monday card in that league. And oh boy, look at 81 Monday with the Dodgers. 1031 OPS. Yeah, that's the Blue Monday card that knocked the Expos out. That card's in the fall league. You'll look forward to that this fall if you're following this. You'll see that version of the Rockies. Much better than this version. But anyway, here we are. So 70. He had a year pretty close to this. Of course, the on base, the average, the stolen bases, all that in a bag of chips. Great range, great arm, 5-tool player. And we have the next 4 years. One with Oakland, and then unfortunately he misses the dynasty by being traded to the Cubs. That's a little disappointing, which is really weird because they didn't have Bill North the entire time. He would have really been a good defensive center fielder for those dynasty A's who probably didn't need him. But anyway, 71, 2, 3, and 4 are all pretty good years. And yeah, there's plenty of good stuff there. I don't need to go through it anymore. We have plenty of time to figure out which Rick Monday we're going to take, but he's definitely a keeper. No brainer there. The final hitter to analyze was Paul Ratliff, a platoon catcher, also a twin. Would have been a teammate of Brant Allee in that 70 Twin team. Also a catcher and pinch hitter. He most likely didn't have a lot of plate appearances either because they had George Mitterwald. But he did a lot with his card. 268, 363 on base. Also got hit by pitch a lot. 7 hit by pitches and only 171 plate appearances. And Strat always accentuates that. And the interesting thing about Ratliff, if you roll a 4, you're going to get hit by the pitch on his card in all 3 columns. It's kind of fun to look at that. Anyway, so 70 Ratliff has a nice performance. In 71, not so much. And in 72, not so much either. It looks like that is it for him. That 1 year of 70. They may have printed his card in 1971 to qualify for waivers. I can verify that. I'll go to the Super D's site and see if there does indeed exist a 71 card for Ratliff on the Twins or Brewers, because that would mean you can qualify for waivers. If you don't have a card, if Strat-O-Matic didn't print your card, I can't put you on waivers. So there's a Paul Ratliff card. There it is for the 71 Brewers. So he qualifies for waivers. That's good news. It just means the waiver pools will be weaker. What we like to do, though, is if a guy can get waivers, give it to him, because the bad column is retirees. Usually, we have less than 64 retired players per year, and we have to push undesirable players into retirement who actually participated. Once you get past a certain number of retirees, if it exceeds 64, then you have to configure your keep, waive, retire categories, because you're keeping 4, waiving 2, and retiring 2. So the maximum number of retirees for the league is 64. So if you have more than that, you can't unretire a player because the card doesn't exist. There's no card. So you'd have to fix that during the draft and just allow teams to acquire free agents just to fill roster spots where those holes would be, those the vacant roster spots in addition to the 64 retired roster spots. So that's why in the cases of Alea and Ratliff, we have their Strat cards. They're not good ones, but because they exist, they're going to go on waivers. If I have too many waivers, I can easily, you can slide from waiver to retire, but you can't do it the other way. Okay. Now we have a couple pitchers who actually pitched on 3 days rest. First one is Gary Peters. Did it with the Boston Red Sox. Statistically, he wasn't very good in either 69 or 70. Was with the White Sox in 69 and then the Red Sox in 70. Had an ERA above 4 both years. 1966 was a brilliant year for him. Led the league in ERA and WHIP. 1966, Gary Peters. His 71 card can pitch on 3 days rest and is pretty similar to the card we just used. So, you could keep him or put him on waivers. This team is not particularly very good. For now, let's keep him because we don't have a 4th keeper. I'm also going to highlight that. We have an option of keeping him or waiving him, but he's definitely not going to retire with another year left in him. And lastly, Carl Morton, who just got started in 1970, was, I believe, your Rookie of the Year. If I'm not mistaken, in 70. Let's double check that. Carl Morton. There it is. He was your 19. Can't get that column here. This won't move over. You know, whatever. Anyway, it says Rookie of the Year over there. He did it in 284 innings with the Expos. And then the next 4 years are up for a contract. The first year is not a very good one, but the remaining 72, 3, and 4 are good. So this is a keeper. You don't give away a pitcher like who's this good. Particularly, he's a 26-year-old rookie in 70. Interesting. But yeah, he's got 3 good years here. All the way through 75, he's got some good years. And he's done in 76. So Carl Morton will be kept. At this point, you see we've got the 5 keepers, 3 waivers, and 1 retirement. So I'm going to put some more numbers here. Remember we said Ratliff and Alea could be retired. So if we wanted to, we're already retiring Driscoll. We could retire either one of those guys, get our 2 retirements, waive the 2 guys, and we'd have the perfect math. 4 keepers, 2 waivers, and 2 retires. The 4 keepers would be Hyatt, Monday, Money, Morton. The waiver guys would be Peters, and let's say Ratliff. And the retired guys would be Alea and Driscoll. That's how they could open up next year's draft with that alignment. But of course, before next year's draft, there's going to be trades. And they could be making some trades with some of these guys. That's it tonight. Looking at the Colorado Rockies. Thanks for checking this out. We'll see you next time.